So welcome back, everyone. And thank you to everyone that has just joined my channel, was just followed me, was liked, was subscribed within the last 1 week. I say thank you. Today I'm going to be talking about how the child's upbringing plays a role in the child's development. So a person with full-blown narcissistic personality disorder or with narcissistic traits. So a child's upbringing plays a huge role whether they would develop narcissistic traits or full-blown narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD as it is fondly called. It mainly comes down to how the emotional needs of the child are met or neglected by their caregivers. When we talk about their caregivers, it could be their parents or their guardians or anyone who the child has to depend on for support. So how does it work? The first one is it could be by excessive praise without real connection to the praise, which is overvaluation. Excessively praising a child and not training that child to become the best version of themselves could also lead to the child developing narcissistic personality disorder. So how does it work? So children are constantly told that they're special, that they're better than others, they're destined for greatness. But don't get me wrong, we all tell our children these things, but while we are doing that, we're also raising them to fulfill their best, to be the best version of themselves, to fulfill their destiny. That means we correct them when we need to correct them, we train them when we need to train them. But in the narcissistic family setting, they're just praising the child. The fact that you're just a child by that person, they just tell you we're the best thing, you don't even need to do anything. Either they say it outrightly or they just neglect all your emotional needs and just overly they're praising you, and they do not give you true emotional support. Sometimes parents like that, they focus on the achievements rather than the emotions. So the child feels like they have to be the best to be loved. This can lead to a fragile self-esteem, and then the child needs to depend on others for external validation. Then the child also believes that they're superior to others and that no one is better than them. The child also has the fear of being average, which also leads to arrogance. We all know that arrogance is one of the traits of narcissism. A narcissistic person believes they're superior to others, they believe they're the best thing that's happened to humanity, and then because of that they become overtly arrogant. For the overt narcissist, even the covert narcissist who wants to appear like they are not arrogant, you still see it in them. You still see that they're able to exude that arrogance. They already feel like they are better than those that are in the room. My name remains Adiola, your favorite narcissistic abuse coach. So I continue on how the child's upbringing plays a major role in the child either developing narcissistic traits or full-blown narcissistic personality disorders. I talked about overvaluation earlier, and I need to talk about undervaluation, which is constant criticism and emotional neglect. So on the flip side, children who grow up with overly critical or emotionally unavailable parents, they develop narcissism as a form of defense mechanism. So the child has been neglected as a child. The child does not even have anyone to go to for emotional support, does not even receive, just basic needs are not met. So what does the child do? The child learns how to internalize itself. They learn how to just cope with themselves, and so they develop narcissism as a form of coping mechanism. So if they are constantly put down, for example, they are ignored or they are made to feel that they are never good enough, they begin to develop narcissism. Also, they may learn to suppress their true feelings to avoid rejection. They also develop a false sense of superiority. Mind you, I said false sense of superiority to compensate for the deep-seated shame that the child experiences. The child also struggles with low self-worth or low self-esteem, but they hide it behind a confident facade. So the child has deep inferiority complex issues, but when the child is outside, the child acts like they're the best and then they act confident, and that's where you see a child bully their mates. They become bullies. They begin to, if those traits are not checked in time, they begin to develop narcissistic personality disorder. My name is Adiola, your favorite narcissistic abuse coach. So we continue on our series on how a child's upbringing contributes to the child developing narcissistic traits or becoming a person with narcissistic personality disorder. Another thing that causes or leads to this is the inconsistent parenting by the parent or the caregiver, which means the love is given with strings attached. So some parents switch between extreme praise and harsh criticism. So they're praising you extremely when they feel you're doing well, and then you're feeding their ego, you're meeting up to the standards that they've placed, and then when you are not meeting up to that, they treat you like nothing. They make you feel like the worst person that ever walked on the planet Earth. I don't even know how some parents are able to do that. There should be balance between training a child and also, correcting the child with love. So an example of this is they may shower the child with a lot of love when the child succeeds, but once the child does not succeed, they withdraw attention and affection from the child once the child fails. The child also thinks that love is conditional based on performance and appearance. So of course, when a child has grown up in an environment like this, the child is only required to grow up and think that the right thing to do to those that are closest to him or her is to continue to make sure that the love is conditional. So when their friends or their romantic partners, for example, their spouse or whoever is closest to them, is speeding up and giving them supply, they feel like, they feel like that person is the best. But once the person is not giving them what they want, they begin to manipulate the child. Also, the child must constantly prove their worth to be valued. The child usually thinks that they should manipulate others to get attention and approval. It also gives them a superiority kind of complex, a superiority kind of feeling. It feeds on their ego and it makes them feel good. My name remains Adiola, your favorite narcissistic abuse coach. So another major thing that plays a role in the child developing narcissistic traits or being a person with full-blown narcissistic personality disorder is where boundaries are not set. So a child is growing up in an environment where anything goes. They are free to do what they like. Nobody corrects anybody. As long as you're their child, that is all. So you're able to do whatever you want. You're able to take things without asking for permission. As long as it's in the house, it belongs to everybody. This gives a child an overtly high sense of entitlement. The child believes that whatever is within their reach should be theirs, and so they go ahead and they just take what they want without asking for permission. It gives them a high sense of entitlement and the belief that rules did not apply to them. They also have poor impulse control and they lack empathy, because a child that believes that they're supposed to get what they want without bounds will always do anything to get what they think should be theirs. Even if it is not theirs, they don't see the need to ask you for, say, permission. You are in a romantic relationship with someone and the person believes that your money is theirs. They don't need to ask you, as little as, dipping hands in maybe your bag, your wallet, without asking permission. This could be a form of narcissistic trait, because why would you feel like something that belongs to someone else should rightfully be yours without taking permission? Of course, we know that when you're within the house, there could be some things that you can take. You feel like, these things are general, this is for everybody. But the ones that you know that do not belong to you, why should you feel like you have the rights to take that? It stems from the upbringing of the child, where a child just feels that they have access to anything, they get what they want. A parent does not know what it is to say no to their child. So the child believes that they are entitled to anything they want, and then they begin to have difficulty accepting criticism or facing the consequences of their actions. So where you begin to attack them and tell them that this is wrong, you're calling them out on their bad behavior. They see you as the enemy and they begin to attack. My name remains Adiola, your favorite narcissistic abuse coach. Welcome back, everyone. So another contributory factor to a child developing narcissistic traits or full-blown narcissistic personality disorder is trauma and emotional wounds. So some children experience severe trauma, abandonment, abuse, bullying, and as a form of defense mechanism, they develop narcissism. They might shut up vulnerability to avoid further pain. They can use manipulation or chat to control situations, and then they struggle to form deep emotional connections with others. So we all know that the core of narcissism is the false sense of self-importance. So regardless of the cause, most narcissists develop a false self, a version of themselves that appears strong, confident, and superior to the outside world. However, deep down within themselves, they often feel very insecure, they're timid, they feel unworthy, they feel afraid of being exposed, and they feel not enough. Please, if any of this resonates with you, can you drop a comment in the comment section? And I'm always available for one-on-one counseling. My name is Ajay, my Narcissistic Abuse Coach.